Hey there, guys. How are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review, and welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to have a different kind of conversation than normal. You can obviously tell from the title here. We're not talking about gaming necessarily. We're not talking about any kind of news or anything. I sort of just wanted to take an opportunity here early in the year, while it's still January of 2020, of course, the new decade. I just kind of wanted to take an opportunity to do a little bit of a touch base kind of conversation. Something that I haven't done in a very long time. I've made a couple of videos and conversations about this stuff with you guys in the past about just the channel or my approach and things like that. And while this isn't necessarily about the channel specifically, it is kind of just more of a bigger picture conversation just about doing YouTube and specifically being on the gaming side of YouTube and what it's like nowadays and what I see through my perspective as a content creator and somebody who's also a part-time content creator, not a full-time content creator. I've been doing it for several years, and while my channel isn't huge and never really blew up, I've still definitely garnered quite a bit of a following and what I think is a pretty significant fan base and something that I'm really proud of, even though only 12,000 subscribers in 6 years of doing YouTube is really not a lot by most people's standards. But for me, as somebody who's only ever been doing it part-time, I've always been proud of it, and I've always found it to be a massive success. Just for me, in my own brain, within the scope of my own life, where I'm so insanely busy. I have a full-time career that keeps me busy 40, 45 hours a week, sometimes more. I've got a full-time band. Actually, technically, I have two musical projects, two bands I'm working with right now. Only one of them is really a direct focus at the moment, but I've got that keeping me busy, regular workout schedule. I mean, so when you are as busy as somebody like me is, and you have a YouTube channel as part of your laundry list of things that you're doing throughout your day and your week all the time, when you have a channel that I think even gets to what I've built Rule of Two Review up to be, you see it as an absolute win, even though most people would maybe see 12,000 subscribers in 6 years as a total lose-lose. I do not see it that way. And also, I've talked about this before. I don't know what it is, and I cannot thank you guys enough for this. But for whatever reason, my view to subscriber ratio is outstanding. My videos average a couple thousand views per video. And for somebody with 12,000 subscribers, that is far and away so much higher than the standard or the average. I mean, it's pretty crazy. And so while I maybe have never blown up in terms of subscribers, I do very, very well in terms of views and watches and watch times and all that stuff. And it's something else that for me personally, I see as a total win. And so as far as further diving into what this video is about and why I'm talking about this stuff, it really is just, like I already kind of said, more wanting to talk about what I see as far as the gaming landscape on YouTube nowadays in 2020. With that 6 years of experience, with a significant 12,000 subscriber base and significant views per video based on my channel size, I feel like I have a pretty worthwhile perspective to share. And I have to say that, YouTube is a weird, fickle, and sometimes scary place. And I think that we all know that. We've seen like 3 adpocalypses. We're going through the COPPA stuff, which I'm going to touch on, later in the video here. And, stuff about like all the people on the child's channels and doing all that weird, creepy stuff and so many other things. I'm brain farting some other scandals. It just seems like YouTube is just on shaky ground. So when I think about what gaming YouTube is in 2020, I think the first thing I think of is just how unstable YouTube feels as a platform to me as a whole. And I've shared this a little bit on Twitter, but I haven't gone too much in depth. I truly, truly, truly feel that YouTube, as we know it, which right now it's still a remnant of what it used to be. It's obviously changed to something more corporate and definitely worse, but I think there are still a lot of elements of what YouTube started out as. However, I feel like over the course of the next year, YouTube is going to just completely just die. It's just going to crap itself. And I don't think it has a very solid future left. And if anything is going to keep it going, it's going to be turning it into even more of a corporate machine than it already is, if you can even imagine what that looks like. And so the ability for anyone like what I do to be able to even like have a channel or have success is going to be probably completely out the window. And it might literally, in order to save itself, it might have to just give up the idea of broadcast yourself and regular people putting their own video content on this site. It's probably going to move away from that and move into something that becomes 100% just an alternative to regular TV, the new wave of TV. Beyond, I know they have like a YouTube TV thing, but I'm not talking about like a separate thing. I think they might literally have to 100% dive in and commit and be completely transparent with the fact that it's no longer about regular people uploading videos to the internet. It's only about corporate companies and TV shows and TV channels having their own content available on YouTube. And it's going to be just that kind of stuff. And that'll be very, very sad if that turns out to be true. But I feel like that's the only option to keep it going. And that's not an option any of us want anyway. It's a bad outcome. Because even beyond that, I still feel like YouTube, it just can't last that much longer. I don't think it's... At this point, it's become so big. It's become so well known, so heavily used. And also because money and advertisements have gotten involved. And now people want to try to expose YouTube and the media has been trying to destroy YouTube, honestly, for years. A lot of the scandals that started the adpocalypse were based more on the media fabricating false controversies, in my opinion. Not all, some of them were real controversies. Some of them, to me, were false. And I think that a few of the ones that the media really blew up were false controversies. They weren't really what they seemed to be, but they were trying to show YouTube in a light that would probably kind of try to destroy it. Because regular TV stations and channels and the broadcast companies and media has seen YouTube as a huge threat. And so I really feel like they've been trying to destroy YouTube for that exact purpose. And so, and now that things like adpocalypses and COPPA things are coming along that are further restricting YouTube down, distilling it down into something unrecognizable, I think it's just going to ultimately be impossible to police it. YouTube has to be policed nowadays based on all these things happening. And in a lot of ways, I think it's good for it to have to be policed. And in a lot of ways, I think it's bad for it to have to be policed. And that's a different conversation I don't want to get into. But to kind of end this part here, I just have to say, I think that YouTube is going to eventually get too big to sustain itself and to be policed. And it's going to either go away by their own choice or it's going to be shut down completely by something else. And I have to say that my belief in all of that is part of the reason why I would never personally choose to go full-time on YouTube. It's just too scary of an idea. Part of it is I already have a really good job and I make really good money, and it's got all the benefits that I need and the insurance, and I get so much paid time off, and I enjoy my job, and I have an insane amount of flexibility and perks. It's crazy. So that's the main reason. But right behind that is the fact that I just don't trust YouTube. I do not trust a long-term career on YouTube. Even if I knew YouTube could only could sustain me for 10 years, I still wouldn't want to do it, because 10 years isn't the same as 30 or 40 years. Like, what about retirement? What about retiring? What would you do after that? Like, or if you ever left YouTube, like, you need something in place. And so, while I think it's great for the people doing it full time, and I only want to see everybody succeed, I have no problems with monetization and advertisements and Patreons and sponsorships. I have zero issues with that stuff personally. I know that there's a lot of people out there that do. They hate that stuff, but I don't care. It's fine. Like, make it be successful. Everyone out there putting everything on the line to do YouTube full time, keep it going, you know? Obviously, people to the level of like a PewDiePie, that's different. Like, he could not be more well off. He is fine. Even if YouTube shut down tomorrow, we know that guy can sustain him and his wife till the end of their days and then some, and probably their children and children's children. So when you get to that level, it's a bit of a different story, obviously. But when you get into the average YouTuber level, even the people that maybe have like hundreds of thousands or even a couple million subscribers, that's just how I see it. And I'm really glad for them. And I do see them as risking everything to do it. And I only want to see them succeed, but I just could never do it. It's just not stable enough for me. So at that point, if we kind of focus this back on just the gaming side of YouTube, let's get smaller picture. Let's get away from just talking about YouTube's too big to succeed and it's going to just implode on itself or whatever. You know what I feel about the shaky foundation of YouTube, but let's get away from that stuff and just talk about just doing gaming in YouTube in general in 2019. And how do I feel about it? Well, obviously, I love doing my channel. That's part of the reason I can do it with such consistency and such enthusiasm while still doing it part-time is just because I love it, right? I mean, I do make money. I'm not going to lie to you guys based solely off of just ads because I don't have a Patreon. I've done a couple live streams over the years, and yes, I have super chats on there. I don't really get very many super chats. So it's not like super chats are giving me money really, even though I do appreciate the ones that I've gotten. And yes, I do still see money from them. But in general, 99.99999% of the money I've made on YouTube is just all from just advertisements that every channel has on it. And so my channel is successful enough that every month I get a bit of money, and it's nice. It's definitely nice to get it. I'm happy with it, and it just kind of helps supplement my income overall, and it's just fine because it's just a hobby, right? But I don't do it for the money. I really do it just because I enjoy it. And so when I think about doing gaming YouTube, yeah, it's fun. It's fun for me, and I think it's fun for most people who do it. But I definitely think that because of the changing landscape and because of the growing landscape, it's really crazy out there on YouTube, man. And for anybody who has a newer channel or a smaller channel or is trying to start a channel, or in the process of starting a channel and just getting going, I think it's great, and I want all of you to do it because you love it, and I want you to have fun with it. There is a huge gaming community on YouTube. I think it's fantastic that YouTube over the years has become this great conduit, this great sort of gathering ground for the gaming community. I mean, if you go back 7 or 8 years ago when YouTube was fairly new still, I think that no one could have foreseen that it would become this place that the gaming community just goes to make content, to watch content, to show gameplay, to talk about video games, to review video games, and just kind of become such a professional outlet. It reminds me of, I've mentioned this before, when I was a kid growing up in the 80s and 90s, the concept of like video game TV programs or anything you would find on TV when flipping through channels, because we used to do that back in the day, when you're flipping through channels to find anything that had to do with just video games, that was the dream that we thought we would never see. I mean, you would love to have something like that. If you were 10, 11, 12, 13 years old in the 80s or 90s, you would love for a TV program to come along and just be about video games. And nowadays, to YouTube's credit, it's become that exact thing. It's become the utopia that those of us from the 80s and 90s would have loved to have when we were kids. And so I think it's fantastic that it offers the ability for a lot of people who are new or small or getting started, the ability to do it. And I definitely tell you that you should do it, but, there's a lot of conversations people have about if it's even worthwhile, if it's even possible to get any ground or momentum nowadays. And for a long time, I wanted to push back on people who say that it's impossible to get going nowadays. But honestly, I think that my opinion has changed a little bit over the last probably year. Because, yeah, I do think it's pretty hard to get going. And I learned that when seeing other channels and other people who I know who are on the smaller side, and I see how some of them work really hard and they make great content and they make fairly consistent content. Some of them don't make consistent content, and I think that's one of the number one ways to not gain traction. You cannot be inconsistent. That much I know for sure. But for the ones who are fairly consistent and the ones who are making pretty good content, they're not really growing and they're just not getting views. And I see that and I think to myself, why? Why is this, XYZ great channel with all these great videos not getting views in the gaming side of things? Like, why are people not finding it and not watching it? I know about it. And a lot of these channels, I fully admit, make even better videos than I think I make. I make very straightforward, simple videos, but I have a fantastic viewership and I have a really strong audience, for what I am. But other channels don't have that and they're not finding it. Some of them I've seen for years. I've known of them for years and they have still not grown, and they'll still get a video that sometimes can only barely crack 100 views, and a lot of times they don't crack 100 views. And it blows my mind. And as I realized the truth of that over the last year, I started to realize I think that this is happening because of YouTube, because it's just hard on YouTube to get going and to find an audience and to gain traction. And so I feel like it has to be disheartening for a lot of the smaller channels and the people out there, maybe like you guys, who are just now getting going or have a dream of getting going. And I wondered to myself, like, how do we fix this? How do we change this? What's the advice that we can give to channels like this that are struggling? And obviously I have ideas of advice, but I don't even know if that can help. I think that it's really just the result of YouTube just getting bigger and bigger. And I used to think that there's no such thing as too many YouTubers or too many gaming YouTubers or too much competition. I didn't see it as competition for a long time. And I actually think it was true for a long time. I think there really wasn't too much competition because I felt like, watch time is borderline infinite is how I felt. Like, it doesn't matter how many channels exist out there. If you're good, people will find you. And even if they have other channels they like, they're not going to take away from people watching your channel because all they have to do is just watch your channel when they're done with the other one. And, we have so much time that we can just, that we're just watching YouTube that people will find time to watch everything that's out there if it's good. And while I think that was maybe true a couple of years ago, I think it's not really true anymore. I have to admit, I think I have to give in to the truth here. And like, there maybe is too many YouTubers, and maybe there are too many gaming YouTubers. And so, those of us fortunate enough, and I do find myself fortunate enough here, to have been around long enough and, started our thing back when you kind of could make a little bit of an impact, we're still riding that success from years ago. I really truly feel that the reason my channel is still going so strong and I get such strong viewership, beyond the fact that, again, you guys are great for just enjoying my content, and I appreciate that, is the fact that I think I'm just riding the residual success from when I started years ago as a Nintendo-focused YouTube channel when the Wii U was brand new. I started this channel right before the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One launched, probably a week or two. My first video was talking about those consoles, and then I think my second video was the week those consoles launched, and I was talking about the launch of the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One when I had probably 38 subscribers or whatever it would have been at the time. I don't even know. And so, because I was around so far back, people know me, and I think the algorithm and YouTube's recommendations understands that about my channel, and I think that helps keep things going for me. So when I post new videos on a very consistent basis, by the way, just keeps me present, it just keeps me relevant, and a lot of people have been around for years, and so they just know about Rule of Two Review, and they just know that I post videos. And for anyone trying to do it now, they don't have that years of built-in success and years of built-in reputation that a channel like mine happens to have. And I think it's really unfortunate for the newer guys out there. Obviously, there are always exceptions here, all right? There are plenty of exceptions. We all know of channels that have popped up just in the last couple of years. Obviously, I'm talking gaming here. That have popped up in the last couple of years, especially in this current generation and especially in the Switch era, that have been able to make an incredible mark and do extremely well for themselves and have absolutely just exploded. More than I could have in the 6 years I've been doing it, right? And I think it's great. I think a lot of people would talk about these channels, many of whom are even friends of mine, and they would talk about it like it's a bad thing. Like, oh, these channels just show up in the last couple of years and they blow up all fast. How lame is that? And I can't tell anyone how to feel, so I'm not going to tell someone they're wrong for thinking that, but I don't feel that way. I don't really care that other channels can show up and they happen to just hit in such a way that they just blow up faster than my channel ever did. Maybe it's because, as somebody who's not doing it full-time and somebody who doesn't dream of doing it full-time, I don't see it as a slight against my channel that my channel didn't blow up, but this new one did. Maybe I just am not in a position to take it personally, so it's easy for me to be like, oh, cool. That channel is new, and look, they already have 78,000 subscribers. Cool, whatever. I guess I just don't care. And a lot of other people, they do see it as a slight against them and their channel, and a slight against their own personal success, and that is what it is. I can't share that perspective, but if other people have it, it is what it is. But again, those channels are the anomaly. The point I'm trying to make is that is such an anomaly nowadays that no one trying to start a gaming YouTube channel nowadays should have any sort of dreams of achieving that in their head. If it happens, great. You get a wonderful surprise and you've done awesome for yourself, and just keep it going and enjoy the ride. But 99% of you out there just getting going, if you're trying to be the next Spawn Wave, for example, you're not going to be. You just cannot have that idea in your head because it doesn't happen anymore. I really feel there are too many gaming YouTubers and there is too much competition. And for you to make a serious mark, it's going to take a level of elbow grease that I think a lot of people maybe are just not really prepared for. And really the only thing I can say about all this is that it's sad to me and I wish it wasn't this way. I would love to think that YouTube could be now what it was 5-ish years ago on the gaming side. Again, everything I'm talking about is gaming, so just think default gaming here. I wish that gaming on YouTube was like it was 5 years ago, when I really think it would have been a little bit easier to kind of make a bit of a splash. You know, there are plenty of channels still around from that time that are still pretty well known and still doing really well for themselves. I'll give you a couple examples. Obviously, I feel comfortable saying I'm one of those channels. Also, Super Metal Dave is one of those channels. He's also a buddy of mine, and his channel's still going strong. He popped up in that era. Also, Obi-Wan Plays, who made a huge impact during the Wii U era when he came around. I want to say now 4 years ago, probably 2016 or so, maybe. I don't know. But, 3, 4, 5 years ago, he popped up and he's still going. And he's got a lot of subscribers and he's making videos and his videos get a lot of views. He mostly does like live stream stuff. I've never been a watcher of his channel. I have nothing against the guy. I think he's fine. I think he's great for what he's trying to do. So I'm not super familiar with his content. But I do know he's still going. And he's still doing it, and he's still got an audience. And so channels like a Super Metal Dave or an Obi-Wan Plays or myself, we've been able to kind of keep going on the success that we were able to find early on, 4 or 5 years ago during the Wii U era and in the early PS4 and Xbox One era of like the gaming side of YouTube. But I don't know. It's not common anymore. And I just, it was really pretty crazy when I started to realize that the competition is so stiff out there, man. I really wanted to believe for so long that no one could be unseen if they just were putting stuff out there that was good and that was fairly frequent. But I see it on a regular basis. There are some channels that I'm subscribed to, and I'm like, these channels are really great, and they don't get any love. I'll tell you two that jump to mind right away is Ferris Wheel Pro, made by my buddy Joey Ferris, who was with Commonwealth Realm for a while. He doesn't make very consistent videos, and Joey, if you're watching, I really wish you could make more consistent videos, because I think your videos are A+ freaking amazing, and they're always very funny, and the editing is really good. So I'm going to link his channel below. Great channel. Doesn't get nearly enough views for how good his videos are, man. But again, Joey, you don't upload often enough, buddy. You got to do it more often. But life is what it is. You can't create a schedule that you can't make, right? So that Ferris Wheel Pro, and then also Avedon Smith, another good buddy of mine, does lots of videos, lots of live streams, a great podcast, always talking about relevant video game news in a great way. And also, Avedon, to be fair, does pretty well. But honestly, Avedon, I think for the size of your channel, I also think you should be getting a lot more views and a lot more subscriber growth, because I think your content's really good and your conversations and podcasts are really good. But those are just two examples of channels that I think are good. They're on the small side. They're very good. And they're not getting the attention. Like, they keep pumping stuff out and doing a really good job, yet nothing is picking up for them. And I hope this doesn't feel like a call out. It's not. Hopefully I'm not. I don't mean to sound negative. I just realized I'm not trying to talk down to the channels. I mean, by exposing the fact that they don't get views, I don't think it'll come off that way. Yeah. I'm going to leave this in. I think it's important for me to leave this in. I'm really just trying to bring awareness to these channels, because I think that their content's good, but I'm just going to be real with what I see, and they don't get the views I think that they deserve. So anyway, this is the mess that is gaming YouTube in 2020. It's a crazy place. It's a hard place to make a name for yourself, and I'll end this, reiterating one point. If you're into it and you're trying to do it and you want to do it, just do it. Just do it because you enjoy it. Don't try to do it for the dream. If you have a passion for gaming stuff and you want to start a YouTube channel about it, just do it. The only advice, here's a couple of pieces of advice I will give. One, I've said this before, video quality is important, right? Like, using a crappy camera isn't the best, but I am a personal believer that more than video quality, audio quality matters. I think using really bad room mics, like from your laptop's webcam, or even just a webcam mic, whatever it is, that picks up all the room acoustics and stuff, I think that actually hurts channels. I think that more than a low quality visual video, when somebody clicks on a video from a new channel they've never watched before, if it sounds like ass from the get-go, I think that triggers something subconsciously in their brain more than the visuals, that, ooh, this is unprofessional, this is not interesting, this is half-assed, this is somebody I don't want to listen to. Because yes, we're looking at stuff on YouTube videos, but we're also hearing it. And I think that, you know, and I don't have the best sound quality, but I have pretty decent sound quality, having my own separate XLR mic that I use. And so I would recommend, more than having a nice camera, I would recommend having some really good audio. Also, I've said it before and I'll say it again here, be consistent. Please, for the love of all that is holy, be consistent with your uploads. And I know that that is hard to do. Trust me, as somebody who's so busy, I don't know how I've managed to maintain such a consistent schedule for 6 freaking years. It's crazy. But the real truth of it is, if you want to try to grow, you need to be consistent. If you're not concerned about growing and you just want to put videos out for the sake of doing it, then it doesn't matter. You just do what you want when you can do it and it's fine. But if you're trying to make a serious go at it, I can only tell you what I see as a truth. And the truth is you got to be consistent. And what that consistency is, I guess I don't know. You know, a lot of channels thrive off of every day. I'm somebody who cannot do every day. But I do probably 3 times a week-ish on average. And that consistency has worked for me. So I would say if you can do at least weekly, maybe even at least 1 a week, and you stick to that for a while, that'll help you. If you can be more consistent, great. The more consistent you can be, the better. There's probably something for being too consistent, though, or overloading the system. So maybe, you know, doing 3 videos a day for most channels won't work, but 1 video a day, or at least a couple a week, is pretty ideal. And so now I want to kind of move away from the gaming YouTube stuff. And at the end here, I do want to touch a little bit on an update about the channel and about COPPA, because we know I talked about COPPA a little bit at the end of the year in 2019 as that whole thing was blowing up. And I told you guys what I was looking at doing with Rule of Two Review and my plan. And I was thinking I was probably going to turn my channel into kid-friendly and stop uploading in 2020 just for a while to kind of see what's going on. And you've probably noticed that that hasn't happened. I've managed to keep everything going. I haven't turned anything into made for kids or my channel or my videos. And I have not stopped uploading in 2020 either so far, which was for a while going to be my plan. But as I even stated when I said my plan, that when I told you guys what my plan was, I said, this is my plan unless things change by the time January 1st rolls around. And while I haven't talked about it on Twitter or on YouTube, a couple things have changed. And I did learn a couple things about it that obviously have affected my opinion and made me feel like, okay, I think I feel comfortable enough to at least kind of just keep it going. I'm still being vigilant and I'm still paying attention to what's going on around me just in case. But overall, I ultimately learned a few things that made me feel good about it. One is, it seems as though if the FTC is going to sue somebody for their channels, they're not going to sue every channel for $42,000 per video. They're gauging it based on the size of the channel and the size of the video and the amount of views the video gets and the amount of money it makes. So they tailor the amount that they might sue you for to the amount of money a video might have made. And you know, I make anywhere from $5 to $50 per video that I make. I'm not making hundreds and thousands and millions of dollars off of my content. So, well, hundreds of dollars, yes, but not per video. And so obviously I'm just not at risk of, if they're going to take me to court for, you know, $79, so be it. So that part definitely helped. The other part is there was definitely a lot that I learned over the course of December that showed that really they're not really targeting gaming channels as much as at first it seemed that they were. The Chad Tronic video was a huge eye-opener, and it was like, yeah, gaming channels are at risk, so be aware of gaming channels. But some of that information changed that I learned. And so for now, this could also change. But as of right now, it seems like the gaming stuff is pretty safe. Another thing that I actually learned only this week was from a video from Arlo, where Arlo touched on something that I had also already been paying attention to. And it was this idea of how YouTube channels and videos can be labeled as for kids or not for kids. But there was also this mixed option, mixed audience version that everyone was like, wait a minute. If the FTC says that there's a mixed audience option, why don't we have that as one of our options? Because most content out on YouTube, even in gaming, is not intended just for kids. It's intended for anybody, which includes adults. I don't care if you're 50, 60, 70 years old. If you like gaming, most content out there is going to be for you. Most gaming channels aren't making stuff geared for very little kids. And so when we realized that that was an option, it's like, well, why don't we have that? And Arlo's revelation that he talked about in his last video was that apparently it wasn't the FTC that denied the mixed audience. It was YouTube. It was YouTube being stupid and wanting their totally busted ass machine learning to try to figure stuff out, which is part of the risk of COPPA for sure, and of adpocalypse stuff. But when we realize the truth of that, it's like, okay, well, FTC, the organization charged with going after YouTube channels, if they're willing to be open to the mixed audience option, it means that they're probably more amenable to actually studying the content. Like, YouTube was the one too stupid to allow the mixed audience option because YouTube is just dumb. But YouTube isn't the one that would be suing creators and trying to get money out of them and close their channels. It's the FTC. If the FTC is already amenable to the mixed option thing, it just means that they're probably a lot more open-minded towards what content could actually be. And if they don't have such an ill-informed black and white description of either it's column A or column B in their heads, then I feel more comfortable with them assessing the situations and assessing channels and videos and maybe making smarter calls, just solely based on the fact that they were all about the mixed audience option. That was a huge game changer for me too. Granted, I learned about that only this week, not before January 1st, but the other stuff made me feel comfortable about continuing through January 1st. And now that Arlo shared his information, it's like, well, that just reaffirms what I already felt, that maybe we're safe for now. And so while the whole COPPA thing isn't totally swept under the rug and it's not like we're all completely safe, the degree of fear has been lessened so significantly that I felt good going. And I think a lot of other creators have felt the same. And that's why you see a lot of other content creators just kind of still doing their things in the gaming space. And it definitely makes me really happy to see. And so at the end of the day, I mean, I could just keep talking about this stuff for like 10 or 15 more minutes, but I've probably exhausted most of what's important to talk about. It definitely was fun to kind of just discuss just some general YouTube things, some gaming things, touch base a little bit on the COPPA situation and how I'm still planning on continuing the channel for now. And I know I planted the seed last year about at some time in the future, I will be ending the channel. I mean, I'm sure I will stop doing YouTube at some point because it's not my job. It's not something that I'll do forever. I'm only going to do it for as long as I'm interested in doing it and motivated to doing it and having fun doing it. You know, the little bit of money I get every month isn't money that I need, so I'm not doing this for the funds or the revenue. That's just like extra stuff that happens to happen because there's ads on my videos. But the point is, I'm not trying to put the fear in anyone that I'm going to be leaving anytime soon. You know, I'm enjoying doing this. And so far, COPPA hasn't given me a reason to stop. And, you know, the gaming stuff, it's just a crammed and packed world out there on YouTube. And if you like gaming stuff, the only reason to do it on YouTube is because you're passionate about it. That's the reason to do it. You don't want to do it just because you want to become big, famous PewDiePie kind of person, because it's just not going to happen. There can only be one PewDiePie. I don't think YouTube will ever see another PewDiePie, partly because I think YouTube is probably going to be dead and gone within the next 5 to 10 years. So the amount of time it would take for someone else to become a new PewDiePie, probably YouTube won't even be long enough to allow it. So anyway, that's just my personal theory. Yeah, this was fun. I hope you guys found it interesting. Let me know what you think and what you took away from my thoughts. And if you have a YouTube channel, you can talk about it and promote it below. I mean, I want the comment section to be filled with people promoting their channels. A lot of those links I have to approve on the back end, so I'll try to be on top of that. But if you share your YouTube channel, I'll try to make sure that it gets out there the best I can and just kind of, I don't know, have fun talking about this stuff. So with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule 2 Review, and I will see you next time on another video.